Hi guys, thanks for joining me on Making with Marilyn today. Using handwriting on projects has become really popular. Now here's a sample of something I did. This was Cricut infusible ink on a pot holder, but the handwriting here is pretty thick. I also made this cutting board, but I did it on a laser, and this is a recipe that my mom had, and it was her open-faced peach pie recipe, but the handwriting is really small and intricate. I wouldn't be able to cut this on a Cricut unless I somehow modify that handwriting so that it's thicker. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. Now, if you're not a subscriber yet, please consider subscribing. And if you do, tap the bell and let YouTube know that you should be notified for all videos that I upload. Then if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, leave them in the comment section below. Then lastly, if you like the video, you found anything on it helpful, please give me a thumbs up. Now let's turn around to the computer and we'll get started. Now this is the program. It's Inkscape. It's free, and don't click off the video yet. I'm going to show you how super easy this can be. If you've tried Inkscape before and it didn't work, just follow my steps. But I would make sure that I have the newest version, Inkscape 1.0, because it's so much more user-friendly than the old version, at least what I have found it is. The rectangle you see here is just the default template in my Inkscape. So I'm going to click on the screen. I want to change that. So I'm going to go up to File, Document Properties. Now usually I just ignore the template, but in this case I really want to see the size that I'm working with. Now with as small as this handwriting is, I'm going to have a decent size project. So I'm going to pretend like I'm working on an 11 by 14 size canvas. So I'm going to change millimeter to inches first of all, and then down here in the custom size, I'm going to change my width to 11 and my height to 14. Because if I do this project, I want to cut it out in heat transfer vinyl and then iron it on an actual canvas board. Now that I have my document properties changed to what I want them to be, I'll go ahead, let's minimize this and see if you can see that it's different. Okay, there's the old one, and then when I changed the width it went to that and the height that went to that. So we have our new document properties. The file I want to work with is on my desktop, so I'm going to click on File and Import. When I first started, I would try to open, and you actually import, and it is Mom's Recipe. We'll open it up, and here it is. And actually it came in a pretty good size for what I'm going to do, but notice right now it doesn't have a transparent background, so this would not cut at all. So here's the first step. There's only going to be a couple of steps to this process. It will be easy, I promise you. With it selected, and this is the select tool right here, so if it's not selected, click on the tool and then click on your object. But with it selected, I'm going to go to Path and Trace Bitmap. This is just a black and white image, so a single scan is fine. So I go down here to the right hand corner and click OK. Now you can preview it right here, and if you want to play with the settings you can. I just leave them alone and it turns out fine. It doesn't look like it will, but it usually does. So I'll click the X and then I'm going to drag the two layers apart. So we have the old image and the new, what's called a path. We want to get rid of the old, so we have to figure out which layer is the old. Now first of all, I can tell this is the new one because the background's transparent. As I make it go across this line on the left, I can see the line. If I take the old one and I try to move it over a line, then the line disappears because it really has a white background. So that's one way. The second way you can tell, with one selected, if it says image down here, it's your old one. I'll select the new path, and then I can see down here it's a path with 5,926 notes. We're not going to worry about those. The third way you can tell is with something selected, click on the nodes tool. If there's nodes, it's a path, it's the new one. I'll click over here, look at nodes, there's no nodes. So whichever of those three ways is easiest for you, that's how you're going to tell. So go back to the select tool, and it selected the last thing was on, and then I'm just going to click delete on my keyboard. Okay, so that was the first step. The next thing I want to do is zoom in on my canvas so I can really see the details. To zoom in, you hold the shift button down and then click the plus sign as many times as you need to get it to the size you want. Okay, so the easiest way to make these letters thicker is to use what's called an outset. Now, the first time I use the outset on this, you're going to think, wow, that looks terrible. And that's because the default size of the outset is the wrong size for something this intricate. Let me show you. With this selected, I click on Path, and right down here, Outset. And you see I lost a lot of the details. I'll zoom in. You can't see the middles of my A's, the G, the E's. That is a loss of too much detail for me. So I'll click back and back. The default outset size on Inkscape is 2 pixels. I'm going to change that. I'm going to go to Inkscape, Preferences, and then under Behavior. Now I've used it a lot, so it's already open. But yours might open like that. If it does, you have to click over on this arrow. You can't click over here. I'm clicking, it's doing nothing. Click on the arrow, go down here to the word Steps, and here's our outset. I've played with this recipe, and I'm pretty sure what I found was 0.75 worked the best. So I type in 0.75 and click Enter or Return. Now I can just X out of that, select what I'm working with again, then go back to Path, Outset, and this time it was a much smaller outset. So you really just have to play with the size of your outset to see what works best with the handwriting that you're working with and the size of your project. What I would do now is I would say File, Save As, and then I would save this as a plain SVG. So you click on this arrow and click on plain SVG. Then I'm just going to call it Recipe Cricut and save it. All right, so let's go ahead and pull up Cricut and see what it's going to do. Or, I'm sorry, pull up Design Space. We will upload image, browse. Here it is, Recipe Cricut, and open. Since I saved it as an SVG, there's no background, and I can just say Save. Now this has a lot of nodes in it, so it may take a while in Inkscape to do things that usually don't take much time at all. Here's another recipe. I met a lady online that was having trouble figuring out how to make hers thicker, and so I just want to teach everyone else how to do it. So I'm going to click on my new image and say Insert Image. One thing with Inkscape and Design Space, when the image comes in, it'll be the right proportions, but it's not going to be the right size. So remember, we were using an 11-inch wide canvas. So I'm going to say I want it at 10.5 inches wide, so I have a little margins on the side. Since this is locked, both the width and the height will change proportionally. Now you can see my mom's handwriting was tiny and very close together. And you really just have to make a decision on what's more important, having more detail, but your vinyl being super, super thin, having less detail and having the vinyl be pretty thick, or in my case, I kind of went with an in-between decision. So the next step, if you were going to make this out of just regular adhesive vinyl, you would leave it like this. If you were going to make it out of heat transfer vinyl, or like I did, Cricut Infusible ink, then you could either mirror this now. In that case, you'd say flip horizontal, or let's go back. Or when you send it to your Cricut, having it on the screen, you could say mirror. If you're more experienced, you might just want to wait and mirror it when you're ready to cut. It can be kind of tricky to remember to mirror, so if you're afraid you might forget, go ahead and mirror it on your design itself. Now, thank you so much for watching me. If you have any questions, please let me know. And until the next video, bye-bye.